Hello and welcome to Future Procurement podcast. My name is Robert Freeman and I'm procurement expert. Today we are continuing our journey of talking to procurement and supply chain people from all over the world, and today we are so happy to talk to Head of Procurement from São Paulo, Brazil, Jesse Guimarães. He has so wide and so broad background in procurement. I really was excited to go through the story of Jesse Guimarães. I'm really curious to know more about his background and about his wide experience in different areas, from automotive to broadcasting media companies. So hello Jesse and welcome to our show.
Oh, hello Robert, it's a pleasure to be here and talk with you and share about my knowledge and my experience through the world of supply chain and procurement areas.
Super. As I mentioned, Jesse, before we started the show, my biggest interest when I went through your profile, I have seen that you have really extraordinary educational background. So if you could share how did you come up with the ideas of each step of your education, and also about your wide and long career in procurement.
Yeah, well, I'm a Bachelor of Engineer, mechanical engineer to be clear. During the course of my mechanical engineer, I realized that I would like to go deeply in the different ways of knowledge. And in my point of view, in Brazil, the opportunity was to study a new area named industrial engineer, when I can put together my knowledge of mechanical engineer and a small knowledge of business and financial and logistics. So that's the reason that I choose to continue my studies in the second level in the master degree. When I decided to study industrial engineer, keeping focus on supply chain area, it was a great surprise to me because the supply area bring me knowledge that I can working together with my knowledge and at mechanical engineer. And during my course of my master's degree, I was invited to be involved as a trainee at Volkswagen.
Wow.
Volkswagen at the moment was starting a process of turnaround of the entire platforms of cars, changing models, and creating the concept of global platforms. What I mean is Volkswagen was designing platforms that can be used in different companies of the group Volkswagen through the world. So,
right.
Example, we produced a car in Brazil named Polo.
Okay.
And the car has a platform that in the Europe was used by Skoda. It's another brand of the Volkswagen Group, and at the same time it was used by Audi to develop the model A3. When I started this process at Volkswagen after finishing my master degree, they decided to invite new engineers of the market with a good education to bring a different perspective for this concept. They are ready to think out of the box. And I had the opportunity to start in the logistics as a supply chain supervisor. I have to introduce the concept of demand planning. I brought the concept of forecast, but using different techniques. It was a big challenge because we are working, big company was working at during a lot of years using the same techniques, the same process. In the right moment, the same company was asking us to think different.
Yeah.
We'd like to make cars, but thinking different. And it was very rich in different ways of experience, mistakes. I committed a lot of mistakes because we are trying to make a big company make the same thing that it always did, but in a different way.
You were located in Brazil that time.
Yeah, I spent a part of part of time in Germany, learning about the process and bringing the knowledge to Brazil to introducing here these different concepts. Because the main idea, it was produce the different cars over the same platforms using the same techniques.
Interesting.
So the techniques that Volkswagen used in Brazil, it was the same techniques used at Spain, Germany, and Mexico to do different cars.
Interesting.
So we spent a few months in Germany, make an alignment about the concepts, the process, the methodologies. The main idea, in the end of the day, it's the Volkswagen would like to share the models through the world using a concept of plug and play. For example, now I'm producing Polo here in Brazil, but if you, as a company, decided to start producing the car in South Africa, I just take the entire project and plugging in the company of Africa, because the concepts and the techniques and the KPIs and everything, it would be normalizing between the companies, between the different units. You have to face problems as syndicates, unions, economic, environmental, politicals. It was difficult because you have to face different cultures. You are talking about the old companies with people working for a long time inside the companies, and we are bringing new techniques. This is some examples of problems that you have to face to implement this kind of strategy, or concept.
Yeah, it was a real big change, and with all the results of the real big changes.
After that, I can say that Volkswagen become a better company, more flexible, and it's it's an important milestone in the story of the Volkswagen, because after that Volkswagen become more flexible. The company was able to grow in building models very aligned with the moment. So we can see Volkswagen growing in a market as US. You can see Volkswagen being more updated about designers.
I think it's very good example of reaction on the globalization, which we are talking so much about. If you really want to succeed in the modern world, you cannot think only locally. And this is one of the articles I have written in the series I Love Procurement, that I said that think globally and act locally is not working anymore. Today you should think globally and act globally as well. And this is a really good illustration of how this rule is used. You should really act globally as well, and to be fast to react to market and to react to the wishes of the customer. That's really interesting example you have given. Thank you, Jesse.
And after that I was invited from a company named Schmessel. It's a German company too that has a unit here in Brazil. And I was invited just because we have trying to implement this bunch of techniques in Volkswagen, and they invited me to be a logistics supervisor and bring this concept to the company. I start working there, discussing demand plannings, the way that the procurement area was structured, creating the concept of global procurement, introducing the company the concepts of strategic sourcing, introducing in the company modern concepts, implementing MRPs or ERPs and a different bunch of system. Be working in two big companies and German companies. I was invited and I had the opportunity to make a lab, I named that. My time as a consultant, it was some milestone in my career, because when I became a consultant, I have to working in an area that the main focus it was cost reduction. So this consultant company it's specializing in cost reduction. So I was introduced, and I had to use techniques as spend analysis, sourcing, strategic sourcing. I have to go deeply in the market analysis, thinking in different ways of purchase process. I had to reduce cost in different companies in a small period of time. So
Exactly.
you are hired, you go to the company, we discuss the baseline, study the supply base, and define the better strategy for the company, and execute and go out. So it was very important. And if I can give an advice for a young procurement man or girl,
Yes.
I should say that working for a period of time in a constant company, because this kind of company give you some tools that you cannot acquire in the example in the Volkswagen. Because in the Volkswagen you have time to do
I
things.
like it. So when you are working in consultancy, you are really measured in a very strict way, and also you are having a very strict time to implement whatever you think about. That's why your brain starts to work completely differently. That's really interesting.
Exactly. You have to give results in a small time, always under pressure to give the results. Keep focus on delivery and the client. That's my advice for a young procurement professional. Spend the time if you can do that, and if you are designing your career, spend the time in a constant company of procurement and cost reduction, because you start thinking in a different way. You improve your capability of investigation, thinking fast, and delivering a good results. When I was there, I was involved in a project that redesigned the procurement area of Warner Brothers in South America. And after finishing the process, I decided to quit over the constant company, because in the end of the day, I realized that I like to make a process of long term inside a company. So to be in contact was very helpful to me, because it gave me great numbers of tools and skills. But I decided to come back for regular companies and working as a manager or supervisor. And I was invited to Warner Brothers to become the manager of supply chain and procurement to South America. To Latin America, Mexico, and Brazil, and other countries. And
so when was this move? When did you start, and how long did you work in Warner Brothers?
I worked in there for 7 years and 7 months. And in Brazil, Warner Brothers, it was marketing office. And the challenge there is to create procurement and supply chain area.
That's very interesting, because when I read your profile, Warner Brothers or Brazilian television, it must be a real different story to work in these kind of companies. Can you share what was your biggest surprise or challenge when you started?
Yeah, but just to give you more information, I have worked on Warner Brothers studios. So we working with DVDs, Blu-rays, games, not with television, not channel. Okay. So the biggest challenge it's because we start producing in Brazil DVDs to sell in the Latin American market of the products of Warner Brothers, like TV series, movies, and etc.
Yeah.
But the factory, it was in the north of Brazil, in the Amazon state, close to the Amazon River, almost 3,500 kilometers from São Paulo.
Okay.
And in São Paulo, it's the biggest market of DVDs in Brazil. So We have to develop the entire logistics, and the production of DVDs was made for a third part company.
Yeah.
Procurement process, it was designed in two levels. Some SKUs was buying by the third part, and other products was buying through Warner Brothers directly.
Yeah.
So we have to develop a strategy and the process. We have to develop the suppliers. We had to develop partnerships to deliver the product. We had to create the concept of a supply chain in Warner Brothers in South America.
Interesting.
I have to make financial evaluations, data gathering, some analysis. And when I started doing that, I decided that I had to go to study financial. So I decided to make a post-graduation in the financial area to understand the concepts. And I decided to do that because I realized how important financial concept it is for a procurement professional. And at the same time, Brazil was in a transition economic scenario. We have a very complex tax benefits here in Brazil, and that everybody in the world know how complex is the taxes in Brazil.
That would be one of my questions in the future. You were working in Warner Brothers, so probably you had some feedbacks from your colleagues from America and also from Germany before. What was that? Is it so much different? Is it completely different mindset, or is it still general rules and with some Brazilian flavor? How is it?
It's completely different. In the US, it's in the US it's very easy. The tax is very clear. You pay in a specific moment when you buy. You are paying tax. In the bottom line. In Germany, it's very easy, but in Brazil it's very complex because you have different states with different tax.
Right.
And when you cross one state for another, you have to pay different values. And to be more complex, Warner Brothers has a headquarters in California, but the Brazilian unit of Warner Brothers, it's managed by from London. So you can deal with the Brazilian tax, the American tax, the European tax.
This is when you decided that you need to get a financial education.
Yeah. When I start to work with the procurement design and the entire process and the flows and etc., I realized that if I wanted to bring some savings and cost avoidances and etc., I had to understand about the financial concepts. I'm not interested in to become a financial guy. But the concepts of financial and the tax, and to understand the tax and how they impact the costs of the products, it's very important to reduce costs and cost avoidance and risks and make the company grow.
That's really good advice that you give. One thing that you said was that importance of financial education, at least some surface understanding of how the things are working in finance. And the second thing you said, what I really liked, and I liked your approach, was that the education that you applied for was really on demand. So you had the need in this knowledge, and this is why you applied for this education. Because quite often I receive the questions from our listeners and from our audience that asking me, Robert, what is a good course for me to proceed in my career in procurement or supply chain management? And I'm really confused to answer those questions because I don't know the background that people have, and the most important, I don't know the real needs that people have in these or those positions. And I think what you said, that it really, when you feel like you are lacking some knowledge, then you apply for that. But you can never learn everything before you start a real job and then say, okay, now I'm ready for this job 100%?
I started as a supplier and studying supply. But when you are growing in your career, you are realizing that you have to fill the blanket spaces
Exactly.
in your mind and structure.
Exactly.
So after that, I made a financial, and when I started working in SBT Broadcasting, it was different because it was a company made a transition from family company to a professional company. The family.
And just for our listeners, we will say that SBT Broadcasting is Brazilian system of Brazilian television, or how do you call it?
Yeah, it's the second company in Brazil. More than 100 offices is split in the entire country.
Wow. So it's a broadcast media company.
Yes, it's a broadcast media company that produce and share the signal and the content. When I came here, I was invited for the same reason, because the company was in this transition for a family company to a executive structure of company. And here I realized that I had another lack of information. When I started working here, I bring my knowledge about procurement, about supply, about financial. But at the same time, I realized that I need to understand a little more about technology, information technology. Because a broadcast company today is a company that basically depends on the kind of technology you have inside your company. We are talking about, you're talking about high definition, 4Q, 8Q. You have video transmitted as a streaming through YouTube. You have content inside Netflix, and SBT has different kind of medias, and the most part of the products we are buying here is technology. But when I was there studying, acquiring knowledge about information technology, I realized that we had another opportunity. The concept of Internet of Things. Because a broadcast television has a big inventory of things used in different programs to do different things.
Can you elaborate on this? What do you mean, Internet of Things?
It's a concept when you have to integrate different things in your company using the internet. I will elaborate that. Imagine an inventory with more than 3,000 SKUs.
Right.
When you have SKUs like ball, and SKU of a big camera of 4Q HD with the cost of $1 million. You have a big system when you control the flow of inbound, outbound of these materials. And I had to create a big data.
Okay.
A big data to bring me information about some cost drivers that I have around me, and when my company it's being involved, and I have to cross this information with my internal demands. I have to buy, for example, lamps. Broadcast television use a great amount of lamps.
Okay. So this is what you call this Internet of Things.
Yeah, but I had to put, for example, RFID tag in lamps to know in real time when the lamps go through the inventory to the studio. And in the right moment create a demand on my system, and the system, if it's necessary, start a acquisition process.
Did you invent the things by yourself, or did you use some of the existing platforms?
No, I used existing platforms as Oracle. I integrate different system, but the idea it is based on the fact that a broadcasting company, it is very dynamic, and the way that they move the inventory is very dynamic.
Okay.
And after a year of working, I always had problems with the inventory, and I always buying, always committing mistakes during the process of buying.
How easy or how difficult is because you are coming from the logistic with a logistic background with forecasting and demand planning. I mean, how different is demand and forecast planning in this area comparing to your, for example, automotive background?
Imagine that you have to buy parts of a car.
Okay.
You have to deal with a group of companies that talk the same language. They work with the materials with the same cost drivers. We can manage it easily. We can establish long-term hire contracts and relationship with the supplier. But when we come to the broadcast television, we are talking about an egg, a fried egg that you're gonna use to make one scene.
Okay, and this you should also have the process for buying one egg.
One egg, and imagine that your team of procurement team has a guy to buy an egg, and you have in the table close to this guy another guy buying a high definition camera of $1 million.
Okay, and both of them are taking one cell in your Excel sheet or in your ERP system.
Imagine that you have to design a process to buy an egg and to buy a camera, and you have, in the end of the day, give savings. You have to offer to the company savings. So spend and in different complexities of fry, nag, and camera and a lamp on a car and gifts to offer in television program, to buy a dress for an artist, to buy a makeup. So imagine this different kind of products being buy for the same thing.
That's really mind-blowing, and for those listeners who are thinking that their number of SKUs is too big or the range is too wide, I mean, I think this is a really out-of-the-box example of how wide it can be.
So in the end of the day, I had to study supply chain, financial, and information technology to put the things together and shake and see what I can do in the end of the day, to thinking about out of the box, that as a result make me have a control, KPIs, give me opportunity to reduce costs, make cost avoidance, and etc. So that's my present reality.
This is really impressive. Can I ask one more question about this?
Sure.
Media broadcast company. For such company, in such situation you are now, what would be your main goals, if you can crystallize all of your goals to some one or two top goals that you need to accomplish? And also, what are the KPIs? Because, I mean, traditional KPIs of just savings is probably coming on the second place in such companies when you really need to have a short time of reaction and things like that. Or am I mistaken?
No, you are right. You are right. If I have to say with my goals, agile, be flexible, resilient, and updated about the change.
Mm.
Make my team be updated about everything, not just about the inside company, but at the same time they know about what happening inside the company. They have to be updated about the outside the company, and not only be reactive about the demands, internal demands,
Yeah.
but being about proactives, considering the outside movements and scenarios. Main goal is to create a structural, internal structure of using systems and technology to make my team be updated, not only inside but outside.
So it's also
Always,
really important to be updated, what you said, to be proactive, as you said, and
yeah,
somehow to make the good communication within the company and also outside the company.
yeah. And my last advice for a new procurement is in the specific moment of your career, you will realize that there is no savings working procurement area as a simple. Oh, let me invite three suppliers to be
Exactly.
involved in this process, and let's try to find the better cost. No, I think in the you be have to deal with the moment when to be inventive to
Mm.
find the best price, and I don't like to use the cheapest price, but the best price for the company,
Mm.
bringing different way to do the business between companies. You have to be always updated and offer different ways to do the bad things. Imagine in the right moment, England decided that in 20 years, no more cars using oils and
Yeah.
diesel, etc. Imagining how the automotive companies are working now. They
Yeah.
are
Exactly.
they have to reinvent that. So if you're not to be prepared and updated with the tools, information, and bring different concepts to your job for our jobs of procurement, that's the big challenges. Let's work in different knowledges as information technology or other things, and how can I use this kind of techniques, tools, information, knowledge in my job? How
Mm.
can I use that to make my job easy, simple, and updated?
Really
It,
practical advice. I like it.
so you have all as a procurement in nowadays, you have to be always think out of the box,
Mm.
because you're not talking about just reducing costing, asking, oh, give me more, a better price. You have to offer for the supplier a different way to help him, to help them give you the best price. That's the challenge. When you bring the supplier, or I always use the term partner. When I ask him, please give me your best price, I have to offer him a different way to give me the best price,
Mm.
with a better planning demand, or a better uh,
Exactly.
uh, not only give me just asking, or hi guys, I'm a big company, so you have to give me your best price.
Yeah.
It's not important. That's this kind of discussion not work anymore about that.
Exactly. So give some limits within which they can play, and they can make different variations to offer you the best price within these limits, within
Yes.
these standards and within these requirements. Really, really interesting. Jesse, I was really inspired with talking with you, and I really get the motivation to the rest of the day. Nevertheless, in Europe here, it's already quite late evening. and still it's a middle of the day there in São Paulo.
Yeah.
But as I said in the beginning of the show, I really like your wide background and experience, and I really like the complexity of the things you are having now, and your approach with constant education to fill in the gaps in your knowledge.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the review, and it was a pleasure to me.
I really hope you have enjoyed this episode of Future Procurement Podcast, where we were talking with Jesse Guimarães. He is a head of procurement of one of the biggest companies in Brazil, located in São Paulo. And I really enjoyed his story about his broad experience starting in the automotive industry and then coming to consulting company and then working in Warner Brothers in Brazil and also in broadcast media company, which is SBT, one of the biggest companies in Brazil. So really hope that you will be motivated and inspired to get the new knowledge, to keep on moving forward in your career. Don't be afraid to change the positions within the company, but also going outside the companies. And the most important, don't forget to get the new knowledge, to develop your skills, and become the better version of yourself every day. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, Future Procurement. We will be out every Monday with new interesting guests. And follow us on the social media. We are on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. My name is Robert Freeman, and this was Future Procurement. We talk to you soon.